So it's been 2 weeks since I've last been on here. For those of you that don't know, my husband 2 Mondays ago was in a very serious accident. He fell off a 20-foot ladder and was rushed to the ER. We didn't know if he was going to live, and then whenever he was conscious, we didn't know, was he going to be paralyzed? What were the injuries? And anyway, he ended up breaking his spine, and that was it, which is a huge miracle. We spent about a week in the hospital, and then we have moved in with my in-laws to have them help me and, well, basically to help each other take care of my husband and to take care of my son. So anyway, that is why I haven't been on for a while, but it also had me thinking of, this is what I want my next story or my next topic to be about, is what happens when tragedy hits. How do you continue to eat healthy if that's the choice that you've made? And I was talking to my husband about it last night. I said, I can't believe I'm still eating the way I am after everything that's happened, because I've said this before, that eating junk food is kind of an emotional thing. Like, when something like this happens and you're physically and mentally and emotionally just exhausted, just spent from everything, you want those comfort foods. You want the spaghetti or the hot cocoa or the nachos, or I'm trying to think of comfort foods and I can't think of them right now, but that's what you turn to. In fact, when people bring you meals, that's what they want to bring you. They want to bring you comfort foods. And I was telling him, I don't know how I've done it. And he said, Tabitha, that's because you've made it into a lifestyle. And it kind of clicked with me. That is so true. When you've determined in your heart and you have made this lifestyle commitment, once you get your mindset there, it doesn't matter what life brings at you. And I will say that it was really difficult. There have been times where I wanted to go grab something that was easy and comforting. And that's when I really had to turn to the Lord and find other ways to, I don't want to say comfort me, but because emotionally I don't think I was able to be comforted at the time, but just to keep my mind off of food. And I went through a whole round of emotions. There were days I didn't want to eat at all. I just felt sick. And there were days that's all I wanted to do was eat. And so trying to balance that out. But I would say that there are some tips that you can do if ever you're in a situation that I'm in and you have made that commitment. First is you got to get creative. You have to be creative with what you've been given. And so being at the hospital and somebody says, I can go grab you something, well, you're limited on what you can eat. And so when they choose a certain restaurant, you find a way to make it work. So, to be honest, I did eat a lot of salads that week. I ate a lot of salads while I was in the hospital. And it didn't kill me. And I like salad. Don't get me wrong. I really like salad. But when you have it for every meal, you get tired of it. You want something a little different. But you just get creative. For instance, say someone wants to bring you On the Border. Well, you tell them, I want the chicken fajitas. And you just don't eat the tortillas, and you add lettuce. And I just make myself a taco salad right there. And I just put the chicken, the bell peppers, the onions, the salsa, the guacamole. I mix it all up, put some lettuce with it, and I eat it that way. And it is yummy, If they're going to McDonald's, you get a salad. No dressing, no cheese. You just drink a lot of water. And then the other big thing that I realized during all of this, or another tip that you could do, is admit that you need help. Admit that you need help. Be honest with the people that ask you. I got so many text messages from people. What can I do? How can I help you? I'm praying for you. And at first it was like, just pray, we're okay, don't worry about us. But after like the second day of not eating, neither one of us were eating because the cafeteria food in the hospital isn't healthy. I know that's ironic, but it isn't healthy. And it was finally like, when somebody asks, I'm going to tell them we need dinner. We need somebody to bring us something for breakfast. Or maybe they could bring us some snacks. And you find those people that you trust and you let them help you. For those of you that helped me through this, Stephen and I will always forever be grateful. I couldn't have done it without you, and I know he couldn't have done it without you. And just thank you. Thank you so much. If you brought a meal, if you went up to the hospital to visit, not only did you help us through a really hard time, but you kept me strong in my journey. And that means so much to me. It means so much to me that you want to see me succeed just as much as I want to see myself succeed in this. And what a wonderful group of friends that I have. What a wonderful church family. And I love you guys so very much for that. So be willing to accept the help. Even if you feel like you can do it all, you can't. And I couldn't do it all. So, and then the other thing that I noticed while I was there is that sometimes people would bring you something and they had sincerely worked hard to make sure that it was something that I could eat. And it was so sweet that they were sensitive to that matter, that they were mindful to that matter. And there may have been one ingredient in there that I know I couldn't have. So what do you do? What do you do in that moment whenever they have worked so hard and they have put a lot of love and they've put a lot of thoughtfulness into what they've made? I really had to evaluate myself in that moment, because do I not eat the food and hurt their feelings and disrespect them really in all the hard work they've done, or do I eat it? And so I had to make up my mind, and I had to realize, okay, the ingredient that they put in there, is it really unhealthy? It's still better than what I could have had before. It's like, for instance, if my mother-in-law made me a smoothie and there was stevia in it. Well, stevia is a form of sugar, even though it's a natural sugar. I've said this before, but when I get off of Whole30, I definitely am going to use stevia because it's just a natural plant, but it's sugary. And I thought, a pinch of stevia compared to going and getting something at McDonald's that's unhealthy for me, I'm going to drink that smoothie. I'm going to drink that smoothie because it's nourishment to my body, because my mother-in-law was so helpful during that time and so mindful. And so I had to look within myself and realize that was not a bad habit. That's not me eating in a bad habit. That's me doing my absolute best with the circumstance I was given and honoring what these people had done for me. So, and for everyone it may be different. I don't know what you would have chosen to do, but for me, it was more important for me to drink that smoothie or to eat that food that had that one ingredient. That was a fine ingredient, but it was just against the Whole30 rules. So those are the things that worked for me during all of that. I have no idea, what would happen to any of you if you had been in that situation. But I will say that God is so good, and He is so good to my family, and He's so good to me. And I could have allowed this tragic moment in my life to turn away from the commitment that I have made and to go back to what I was doing. And anybody would have said, well, you have a right to feel that way, and you have a right to eat whatever you want. You just went through one of the worst things anybody could go through. Even my dad said, well, sometimes you just have to make exceptions. And I said, no, Dad, I'm not making an exception. And if it hadn't been for the people that God had put in my life, and it hadn't been for God's strength to get me through this time, I wouldn't have been able to do it. So that's what I would have to say in all of this, is that the number one thing that you can do is to rely on the Lord. It's just to rely on the Lord. He took care of me. He took care of Stephen. Oh my gosh, he took care of Stephen in a powerful, the biggest miracle. My husband is alive and my husband is walking. And I was able to see that. And so instead of trying to draw on the negative and trying to comfort myself through food, my husband and I, we both looked at the blessing and the positive of the situation. The positive that he's alive and that he's walking and that he's going to recover. So it was amazing. So that's all I have for this week. I wish it could have been a little bit more articulate, but it's been a really hard time for my family. But I wanted to get on here and update you all and let you know that we serve a great God.